Today, join me in this simple right angle weave design. If you need any materials, check below in the description of the video for links to purchase the products from us online. So to begin, we are going to be doing raw or right angle weave. It is very simple to do and easy to keep track of, especially when you're using larger beads. So I'm using these Potomac Pearls, and these Potomac Pearls are 4mm and they're in the almond satin color. I also have here some 11-0 seed beads in the Duracoat Galvanized Champagne. We're going to begin our raw stitch with 4 beads that is going on to our size 10 beading needle. So I'm just using a size 10. You can use a size 12 if you want as well. And I'm putting on 4 of my pearls that are separated by seed beads. So I have on 4 pearls, and I'm going to let them drop down to the base of my thread. At the base of my thread, I have a stop bead and just about 3 inches of extra thread to hold on to. I'm using 0.006 Wildfire thread, and I'm actually using the pink color. I have 4 of my pearls on, followed by 1 each of my 11-0 seed beads. I'm going to take my thread and needle now and go back through that first pearl. When I go back through that first pearl, what's going to happen is it's going to force it into a box, a little right angle weave unit. I'm going to take my needle and thread through the second pearl as well, and because the seed beads are there, I'm passing through the seed beads that sit next to them, and then I'm going to come out the third pearl. So I've gone in, I've created my little box here, started by adding my 4 pearls, then circled back around to come out through the right-hand side of this box. I'm then adding another rotation of 3 more pearls to make my next box. To do so, I want you to add 1 11-0 seed bead, followed by your pearl seed bead pearl combo. And with the pearls, they have a little tail usually because of how they're coated. So just turn it around. You might need to force it on a little bit. And then make sure from now on, to continue with our pattern, that you are beginning and ending with an 11-0 seed bead. You want to begin with an 11-0 and end with an 11-0 because we're connecting to this right side bead of the first right angle weave box that we've created. We're going to create our second box, which is going to make that right side now the left side of our new box. Our thread is coming out the bottom of that 4mm bead there. We're going to sew into the top of that 4mm bead. That once again is going to round this out. We sew through that first bead there, and then we're going to go into this second bead, or we're going to go through the bottom of our right angle weave, again going through the seed beads as well. And then we're going to go through the right side. You always want to exit through the right side of the unit you're completing. When you're exiting through the right side, you want to make sure not to go through the seed bead. You're going to be adding a new set of seed beads as we continue on. So once again, 11-0 goes on, followed by our pearl, followed by an 11, and a pearl, and an 11, and a pearl. I'm going to repeat, 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 and another 11. Let that once again drop down towards your last right angle weave box here. We're coming out through the right side. This time we're coming out the top. Each time we do a new raw box, it'll go top to bottom. We're doing figure 8s. We're going to sew into the bottom of the bead that our thread is coming out of after adding those 3 new beads to make our new box. We made our box, but we still need to get to the right-hand side so we can get ready to make a 4th box. Take your thread and needle through the seed bead, pearl, seed bead, and exit through the pearl. So you can see now as we complete the 3rd box, our first box, our thread was coming down. Our second box, the thread was exiting, coming up. Our second box, our 3rd box thread is coming down. When we finish our 4th, it'll be going up. You are going to continue on building in these little boxes all the way around your piece. When you build the little boxes, you're going to end up with approximately 20 or so, to about 22, 23, depending on the size of your wrist, of the boxes that we're going to then come back and embellish, adding in some 15-0s and some crystals. It's a nice time right now also to look and see that this is a nice, simple, easy right angle weave design that you're creating the top, the bottom, and the box with each unit. Going faster because we're using a pearl rather than using a tiny seed bead. So it's the exact same. This is not a new design. This is a revamp to show a video that was done 8 years ago with the better technology in the camera here, how we're going in and creating this nice simple right angle weave pattern. And then in the raw, we're going to add our 4mm bicones. So go ahead and continue on making your little boxes here as we add in 18 to 20 or so of our total right angle units so we can come back and add in our beads. Once you get to the end of the design, it is time to go ahead and add your clasp. I'm going to be using a table cut button, and I have my thread and needle coming out of my last right angle weave unit, and I'm going to add 1, 2, and 3 of my 11-0 seed beads. Sew up through the back of the button, come out the top of the button. I'm going to pick up one of my crystals with an 11-0 on either side. So down through the back side of that crystal. That crystal is just going to sit right on the top of that cut button. You could also use a pearl if you want to, since they're the same size. From here, 3 more 11-0 seed beads get added on, and I'm going to sew up through my pearl, just as if I was doing the same idea of that right angle weave. That puts a button right there on the end, and I'm going to reinforce that. Meaning if you're new to beading, anytime you have a clasp or closure, that's usually where there's a lot of wear and tear on the piece. So you want to make sure to go ahead and have extra thread, at least 2 times of thread going through a clasp or a closure area. Once I'm through there, I'm going to take my thread and needle back through my pearl again so that I'm set up and ready to do my embellishment. To do my embellishment on the bracelet, it's very simple. I could be done with my bracelet at this point and make a loop on the other side, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to add some crystals for a little bit of bling in the middle. To add the crystals, we're going to make sure we don't pull too tightly. I'm going to add 1 15-0, and I have an matte opaque dark cream Miyuki 15, along with a 4mm Potomac Crystal Bicone. Why 4? Because it's a great size that everybody has on hand. I'm using it in the smoky topaz color, and I'm coming out of this last box and going out the top of the right-hand side of the box. I'm going to go to the left side of that box and go into the bottom. What that's going to do is put this 15 crystal 15 so that it's sitting in the middle of that right angle weave unit. I don't want to pull too tightly because that can cause the bracelet to curve a little bit. I'm going to repeat again, 15, crystal 15. I'm coming out the right-hand side of the box that I'm currently on, and I'm coming out the top. Once again, I'm going to go into the bottom of that left-hand side bead, and then I'm going to go out through, as I go into the bottom here, I'm going to go out through, once again, the top. So as I go out through the bottom, out through the top here, trying to sew through my thread, which it wouldn't let me do. You can see how it just nicely decorates the interior of all of these right angle weave units. You're going to continue this same technique down the entire bracelet, adding in your seed bead, crystal seed bead, coming out the top of the right, going into the bottom of the left here. And then your needle comes out and is in position for my next box. Again, do not pull too tight, because what can happen if you don't have as much room in here or as many beads filling the space, it can start, see, if I pull the thread tight, it can start to curve a little bit. The way to correct that curve sometimes is to add additional seed beads into that cross section that you're filling in this round. I would rather have a little bit of slack in my thread than have extra beads there because I don't want them to sit up higher. So I'm compensating for that by not pulling super hard on my thread as I add my embellishments. I'm gonna go down my 20 rows of my right angle weave here and embellish the whole way down the bracelet, adding in my 15s on either side of my 4mm bicone crystal. Once you're done with your embellishment and you get to the opposite end here, what we're gonna do is we are going to go in and make a loop for our button to sit inside of. So I'm coming out of my last pearl here, and I've added onto my thread and needle 3 of my 15-0s, along with 28 of my 11-0 seed beads. I'm gonna take my thread and needle now and go back through the first of the 28 towards those 3 15-0s. That's gonna make a loop for my button to pass inside of. Add 3 more 15s, come back to that same pearl, and again my thread's coming out the bottom of the pearl. I'm gonna sew into the top of this pearl, pull that needle and thread down, and that's gonna create a little bit of a little V section there. I like to do that rather than coming out and making the loop right out of the bead because it's a bigger opening. I always like to have with my loop one opening or one side that's closed tighter together rather than having it bigger and open. It makes the button stay on better. From here, just like we did the other side, for you beginners, we're gonna make sure to go in and reinforce our thread. So we're going back through and retracing all of our steps here, sewing back through all of these beads, making another line of thread pass through our connection spot or our closure area. If you have a regular clasp guarding clasp or a lobster clasp, toggle clasp, I always recommend using a wire guard. We have lots of videos on using wire guards in your jewelry making. That's a great addition if you are going to use a metal clasp on the bracelet itself. From here, then, after I go through and reinforce that loop, I'm going to come back down through that center 11-0 that we're sharing, over then through the 3 15s on that left-hand side. And now I'm going to go through the pearl once again. As I go through the pearl and bring my thread through, I'm then going to go back through the right angle unit. So I'm actually going to flip my bracelet over to end my thread. Just think about it like you're ending a button or sewing a button onto something. I'm retracing my thread lines, going back through the right angle weave from bottom to top, going back through here. I'll go back through two to 3 of my little boxes, and then tie off my thread ends. You always want to tie off your thread end or get rid of your thread in a very inconspicuous place, so somewhere where you're not going to see it. I have a little bridge thread here. I'm going to sew my needle and thread under the bridge thread, so see how it goes underneath those 2 little bridge threads. Make a loop, and I'm going to sew through the loop once and twice for a nice sewer's knot. Pull tightly on the thread, not the needle. Get it nice and tight in there, and then still sew away from that knot. When I sew away from that knot and take my thread and needle somewhere else to burn off the thread end, it's less likely that I see where that thread is burnt and I don't see as much of the thread there. So I'm going to burn it down close and then go in and burn off that thread edge. Then you are going to have your bracelet completed. Remember, there's a variety of different materials that you can use for this. So you can do 6mm beads with 6mm crystals in between. You can make it into a necklace. You'll see it will sit nicely and really have fun learning what you may not have realized was raw stitch and filling in this raw stitch bracelet. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you learned a little bit more about the steps of raw or right angle weave. Remember, if you do need any materials, look below in the description of the video to click on the links to purchase from us online. Remember also, if you haven't yet, please subscribe so you don't miss anything from us here at Potomac Beads. Remember, you can always give a little thumbs up and give your feedback, especially to those Potomac beaders that may be new and just joining in this amazing community. Hopefully you liked this video, and stay tuned for the next one.